Hello, what's up, movers and shakers? Welcome back to the Marni on the Move podcast. I'm your host, Marni Sallow. I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, a friend, someone I've worked with, and someone who is changing the game when it comes to running. Royi Metser, founder of Avelo Running, the world's smartest running shoe. So, Royi, dial me in and dial my listeners in to what Avelo Running is and why you started this company.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Marni. It's good to see you. So I've been building Avelo for almost 2.5 years now, and we're building the world's smartest running shoe. And what it is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a great running shoe with technology that's embedded inside of the shoe in the foam. It sits under the foot, and it measures your running form, and it measures impact. And then it connects to an app that coaches you to reduce your risk of injury, improve your running performance, and accomplish whatever your running goal is. So we see it as a coach on your feet.
Okay.
And that's Avelo, yeah.
So you are an avid runner. You've done half marathons and marathons. So is that where the idea for Avelo came from? Like, talk to me about like your why and what inspired you to build this company.
Yeah, so the mission of the company is to help every athlete run faster and stronger. And it was born out of my personal passion for running. So I became passionate about running when around the time we met, when I was still at Inside Tracker leading business development there, and we did some work together when I was there. It was about a year into the COVID pandemic when I found running myself. And running is what got me from a situation where I was in, I would say honestly, poor health for the first time in my life. It was actually an Inside Tracker blood test that helped me realize that I did a test and found out that I had a high biological age and high cholesterol, and there were some other things that I really didn't like. And it was after a period of about 1.5 years where I wasn't exercising. Honestly, for the first time in my adult life. It's always been something that I've been very consistent with, and I think the pandemic just put me in a routine that was not usual for me, and I'm sure many others experienced that too. And so after I did that test with Inside Tracker, I had a wake-up call, and the action I chose to take was to sign up for a marathon. And at that point, I had run a few half marathons. I had never taken it incredibly seriously. Like, I followed a training plan for one of those, I think. But it was more for fun. It wasn't my primary form of fitness. I went through periods where I did CrossFit, and I was always lifting weights and playing recreational sports like basketball and soccer. But signing up for that marathon was the first step in my journey to becoming what I would say now is a runner, and really taking running not just more seriously is probably not the right word. It's become my passion, the thing that I have goals around, the thing that I want to get better at. I would say now my primary form of fitness. So it was really, that was the catalyst, and it was through that journey to get better at running that I started thinking about obviously using a lot of the tools and products and services that were out there, and feeling like something was missing, and deciding to go and build something that I felt I could and would benefit from, and that would also benefit many other people.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we used to do our like weekly meetings, we would talk about running first and shoes. And because I have the shoe review channel, and I was getting all these shoes and testing them. So what shoes are you running in? Obviously you're running in Avelo shoes now, but over the years, so people can get a concept of like where you're coming from designing the shoe, what shoes have you run in? What shoes do you like? And what have you taken from that experience into the design of Avelo?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I became a little bit of a shoe junkie through
it's easy.
Yeah, I know. Through the experience of taking running, becoming more passionate about running. And so dating back like many years, I was always running as part of my overall fitness routine. And the shoe that I was wearing for a long time, because someone at a running shoe store told me I needed it, was the Asics Kayano.
Okay.
So that's actually a stability shoe. Some person watched me in a shoe store. Like, honestly, they may not have even seen me run. They may have just watched me walk up and down the store, which to this day still blows my mind that we use that as a method to recommend the right shoe for someone. But I was told that I, quote unquote, overpronate, which we can get into that whole topic later if we want to, but
Okay.
and that I needed a stability shoe. So for years I was running in the Cayano. It's a great shoe. ASICS is obviously a great brand. They make great product. And then eventually, as I got more into running, I wanted to try some newer products, some maybe, dare I say, more exciting product. And so the products that I ended up gravitating towards were today I think they actually have an official name. They're called a super trainer, which is what we're building at Avelo. But really, all that means is that they're a few things. Very versatile. I would say that's one of the characteristics of the shoes that I gravitated towards. In other words, obviously they're comfortable. That's arguably one of the most important things about a running shoe. But you can use them for a variety of runs, meaning they're a great shoe for an easy run when you're jogging relatively easy and slower. They're comfortable for long runs, and you can also pick up the pace in them, and they feel good and lively and responsive when you're picking up the pace. And it's one shoe that can handle all of those things and do it really well. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. So there were some shoes that I loved, like the one of them was the Brooks Hyperion Tempo, which they've actually kind of changed the way that they do the Hyperion line. The best one, honestly, in my opinion, is the Saucony Endorphin Speed.
Yeah.
That was one that I know a lot of runners love. They've done a great job. Saucony's done a great job with that line in that model, and we've drawn a lot of inspiration from that. And really, again, it's just a very versatile shoe. So that's the type of shoe that I was most excited about and gravitated towards.
So as a startup in the shoe industry, which is, really challenging to be honest, and then in the tech industry, what's your sort of like go-to market strategy in terms of like how many products you're launching with?
Yeah, product-wise, we're starting with one model, as you said. Like as a startup, you need to really focus, and of course, you have relatively speaking limited resources compared to the big companies. So we're starting with one model. It's the Super Trainer. The long-term vision is to create a portfolio where we have a shoe that is the right tool for every spot in a runner's rotation. We're starting with, I would say, the one in the middle.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Super Trainer is the one that you can, again, wear for everything, right? So you can take it on an easy run, you can take it on a long run, but you can also do your workouts in it. You could even race in it for runners who don't necessarily want a carbon fiber plated racing shoe. You could wear a shoe like this for a race. So that's what we're starting with. And then we're going to expand to either side of that. So if you think about the Super Trainer as the shoe that's kind of in the middle of your rotation, you take it for workouts, you can take it for easy runs. We'll make a racing shoe, so lighter weight even. The Super Trainer is already lightweight. It's going to be about 8 ounces in a men's size 9, which is already pretty light for a shoe. And then the racing shoe is going to be even lighter than that. It's going to have a carbon fiber plate instead of what we have in there, which was a PIBA plate, so it's a little more flexible. The super shoe will be, maybe even a little more responsive. And then we'll make a daily trainer, which is more like maybe even better for easy running, like that sort of thing.
So what's the stack and the drop off the just like for the first shoe?
On the Super Trainer, it's a 36 millimeter stack in the heel and 28 in the forefoot. So the drop is 8 millimeters. And that's what we're starting with, which is kind of like right in the middle of the bell
that's
curve.
like a sweet spot. Yeah,
it should be good for a lot of people. And now, of course, people have preferences, and there's different shoes that are good for different people. So our goal over time is not just to create different models, but also to create different variants of each model. So I'd like to be able to offer someone a Super Trainer that's maybe even higher drop than 8 millimeter and a lower drop than 8 millimeter. Because, again, there's different drops that are good for different people.
That's really cool. And so I think it's very exciting that you're launching with one shoe, and I get to say that I knew you when, because like when I interviewed, like I knew the On guys too before, like when they launched their first shoe,
it was at a triathlon expo. So it's pretty cool to see the trajectory of a brand in this space. And I'm really curious, like, I think it's going to be really awesome for you to kind of, as you go and build your brand, to kind of get feedback. And are you thinking that runners will wear these shoes as part of their training or during a race? Or like, how do you feel like your customer is going to wear the shoes?
So there's a few things. For some people, we designed this shoe so that you can wear it for everything if you want to. And I've been using, it's been in testing with not just our team, but runners who are not on our team since December. So we've been at it for almost 6 months, wear testing. We've gone through a few rounds of samples. We're on our third round of prototypes right now and still in testing with runners. And we're getting great feedback. They're telling us that it's versatile, which is exactly what we wanted, that it's both comfortable and lively and responsive at faster paces. So if someone only had one shoe, and many runners just have one shoe, this is a shoe that could handle all of your running, including workouts, even races, again, for someone who doesn't necessarily want the more aggressive carbon fiber plated racing shoe. Now, many of our customers and the people that we've interviewed and worked with, we know that they have a running shoe rotation. They've probably got 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 shoes that they're running in regularly, including a daily trainer, including more of a workout shoe, including maybe a recovery shoe that's even super high stack, and a racing shoe, right? You could have up to 4, maybe even 5, a trail shoe too. So for those people, we're not expecting them to completely change their behavior and scrap all of the other shoes in their rotation. It's also nice to vary it sometimes. It keeps things interesting.
Right.
And there's some benefit that's been shown even in studies, some injury prevention and protective benefit to varying the footwear that you're wearing because it's providing different stimulus for your body.
I agree with that totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that, like people say, oh, like, why do you change your running shoes? Because I review shoes. And I'm like, actually, I think it's good for my foot because my foot never gets used to like one way of landing. And I think a lot of people should have like 2 or 3 shoes in their quiver. I mean, I know running is accessible and affordable and all those things, but it's also an investment in your body. So
100%. Yeah, and there's many people like that. So for those people, again, we're not expecting them to now all of a sudden exclusively use the Avelo shoe, but we will integrate with the other products that they're using. Like that runner is also wearing a Garmin or an Apple Watch
right.
or a Coros or tracking their runs on Strava. And so we will connect with those other apps and devices so that we can have some visibility. We won't be able to, of course, get all of the data about those runs, but we will at least at a high level understand what they did in the shoes that aren't Avelo shoes and use that data to provide a holistic picture of their training.
And what was the thought process in developing the entire shoe versus something that you attach to your shoe or slip into your shoe? Because I know over the years there have been products like that are in the tech space, like the wearable tech.
100%. And this is a conversation that we had. We went back and forth on this quite a bit in the beginning because it's an important decision. And there's merit to the thought that, hey, why make a shoe because a shoe is hard? And obviously there's some...
Right. But that's how you roll.
Yeah. So, I mean, fundamentally, we did it for 2 reasons. One is for the customer, right? So there's some pros and cons, but we wanted to create an experience that's frictionless. What I mean by that is hassle-free, easy to use, super simple. And the way to do that with this category of product is to embed it in a product that I'm already using and make it so that I barely have to change my behavior to use this device. I just put my shoes on and I start running. And we've designed the product and created specifications that also support that frictionless experience. For example, we made it so that you never have to charge the shoes. Like, that's the last
Whoa,
thing.
what?
It's a big deal. Yeah, that's the last
huge.
thing any of us need is another device in our life that we have to remember to charge.
You
Like, we
should
have
see
enough
my
of
desk
those.
right now. It's insane.
Exactly. So we know that if you require someone to have to charge the product, it makes it much less likely that they're going to use it over a long period of time. And so we went through a lot of trouble to say, no, we're going to use a non-rechargeable battery, and it make it so that the sensor lasts for the entire life of the shoe, which is at least 300 to 400 miles. And so the second you ask someone to have to attach a gadget or accessory, you have to attach it properly. It's attached differently on everyone's foot, right? Different lace, different shape of the foot, different shape of the shoe. There's just friction there. remove it to charge it. Oh, it's on my other shoe, and today I'm running in my workout shoe, but it's on my daily trainer. Now I have to go remember and move it from shoe to shoe, right? So there's little things that just add up to create an experience that's not completely frictionless, even though the technology can be great. And so we just took the approach of, it's almost like the Apple approach, like it's harder in a lot of ways, but you create the fully vertically integrated experience, right? Like Apple, they own the hardware, but they also own the software, the operating system. Like that's different than Microsoft. It's not necessarily better or worse. It's a different strategy. And we believe the right strategy for the customer, for our customer, is to create an experience that's seamless, that's frictionless. Now, to do that, you have to create an amazing shoe, obviously,
Yeah.
because people are not going to settle for an okay shoe just to get the tech. Like, that's table stakes. But there's another reason, which is we felt like creating brand is so important and community is so important, and especially in running, we felt like we could create an exceptional consumer brand, one that runners want to be a part of, and a product that they're proud to be a part of, that they're proud to put on their body, that they talk about with their friends, that creates this buzz. And every shoe we sell is basically a billboard. You can do that with a shoe in a way that you just can't with an accessory or a gadget.
And now, is this available now for people to buy or not yet?
So we just came out of stealth at the end of March 31st, and we are currently, you can sign up for our wait list on our website, avelorunning.com. We are about to start taking pre-orders actually in June. We're going to launch on Kickstarter pre-orders.
Okay, cool. What like Kickstarter pre-orders, like what is the price for the shoes, or it's like what? Yeah.
We're still determining the final pricing for the Kickstarter pre-order campaign. Retail will be around $250 for a pair of shoes, which, it's a premium product. Obviously, there's technology inside of there. So it's in the upper maybe 20 or 30% of running shoes, but not more expensive than the most expensive shoes on the market. And of course, you're getting a lot of value for that price. And then there's going to be a ongoing membership or subscription fee for access to the app, and ideally some other perks. So very similar to the model that, for example, Oura Ring has adopted and used in the market.
And so from a business perspective, you're selling the shoe, and then will the app that comes with the shoe be free, or will you have to pay a monthly subscription for that down the road, or because that's what Whoop does?
Yeah, exactly. The idea is that you would pay for that value of the app, and of course that incentivizes us as a company to work really hard to continue to deliver value and earn that money that you're giving the company every month and every year. We'll probably, I can almost guarantee that there'll be a period where you don't have to pay, an initial period where, of course, you can try it and make sure that you're getting the value that we promise you're going to get. So there'll be, a month or 3 months or something like that or maybe even more, something like that, where you're getting the app for free. But then over time, long term, the idea is that you are paying a membership, and we hope to deliver, of course, we plan on delivering plenty of value for that membership to make it very worth it for people.
Like content beyond the data that people are getting on a daily basis, like insight, education. Yeah.
Exactly. So of course, there's features in the app around, we call it resiliency. So much like Whoop has a recovery score, Oura has a readiness score, many of these wearables are doing this. We're creating a score called our resiliency score, which is actually based on impact in addition to all the other metrics that we can measure, like your heart rate. So impact is every run, there's a physical pounding that your body's absorbing with every step. And we're able to measure that with a sensor in the shoe and then use that to give you a daily and post-run resiliency score, which helps you understand if you're pushing too much or training in the right zone that is stressing your body enough to elicit the positive adaptation that leads to better fitness, but not so much that you experience a setback or an injury. So that's one big category. Another one is running form, and then the last one is running efficiency. So that's all the app related features, and then we hope to deliver some more perks if you're a member.
Yeah, awesome. That's really cool. And so people can, start shopping in June. When you launch with the app, you'll have the impact score. You'll be able to look at how people are landing and their form. And you'll be able to give them coaching advice on that. Like, obviously our watches give us a lot of these things, but not in the way that a shoe can look at the data differently.
Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, there's a conviction here, which is that human movement begins from the ground up at our feet. And the only way to accurately and reliably understand what's happening and how you're moving is to measure at the source, our feet. You can measure some things at your wrist, but not everything. It just makes logical sense. And so we're able to measure things that you just can't measure reliably or accurately from the wrist.
Yeah, I
And
always
then
wondered how my Garmin could tell like what my stride was, but
on some things it's pretty good. Like for example, on cadence,
yeah.
steps per minute, it's pretty decent. But when it comes to the more granular metrics like contact time, flight time, foot strike angle, in other words, are you a forefoot striker, a midfoot, or rear foot striker, pronation, symmetry between your left side and your right side, which we're able to understand. Again, ground reaction force, which is helps us understand the physical impact of every step. Like these are things that you just can't measure from anywhere other than the foot.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how I heel strike. I know I'm a heel striker.
Well, how do you know?
I would be shocked to learn. Like
How
that
do
would
you
be
know?
like because I feel it in my feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm a real heel striker. I
Well,
actually
we'll
think
find
like
out.
we're gonna find out. I think
Yeah.
depending on the shoes, right? Like not depending on the shoes, but like I can tell more depending on the shoes. Like there are some shoes that I've tested that I'm like, there is no way I'm gonna run in those because all I need because I do land on my heel and there's no heel. Like there's no heel in the shoe. But I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize. I think because like I'm in the industry and I do a lot of interviews and do a lot of analytics, like I know these things about myself, but I don't think a lot of people realize like if they're a heel striker, if they need a stability shoe, if you mentioned that earlier, like the whole stability pronating, soup to pronating. If you want to talk a little bit about that and how that relates to Avelo, but I do think that people don't realize unless they're like super dialed.
Well, the only way to get this information really is to go into a lab, a biomechanics lab, right, and have a running analysis done where there's cameras all around you and you're running on a treadmill that's instrumented with some sort of force sensor. That's the only alternative. So much like before we had rings and watches, the only way to get some information on your sleep was to go into a lab and have them analyze your sleep. Like they made information that was previously only accessible if you went into a lab available on every day, every night. We're doing the same thing. We're making data that you could only get by going into a lab available on every single step and every run continuously over time. So it's a very similar model of continuous monitoring.
Oh, I like that parallel. That's really good.
Yeah,
Kind of brings the vision, like gives me the visual of like where it starts to like how it's like this is the next thing, mainstreaming that idea.
Yeah, we're unlocking insight about human movement in a way that's really never been done before. That's the idea. No,
So you're doing the Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign, but what is your strategy like in terms of coming to market? Where will the shoes be available? Is it D2C? Are you talking to Fleet Feet, like doctors, yeah.
Yeah,
Where
so it's going to be mostly direct, and so of course online. You'll be able to on Kickstarter. We're going to do pre-orders, so that's where you'll get a discount for being first, and then we want to deliver product in 2026 with potentially even a small batch of product later this year to the earliest backers. And it'll be primarily direct, both online, but also we'll do some stuff in person. So we're going to focus on a few running communities in the U.S., and we're selecting those now and really go deep in those communities, make sure that we're partnered with the running clubs. We'll probably partner with a handful of retailers to start. And so we will be available most likely at a handful of retailers. Not the big national chains, but some of the smaller ones in these running communities that we select. We'll be at events, of course, so like the running event, TRE, around major races, marathons, and other major events in the running industry. So it's kind of a combination of direct online and in person, and then some partnerships with retailers, and then the retail business will expand over time. We'll probably lean a little bit more direct initially, but it'll expand and include more retailers as we grow.
Yeah. And so when you talk about your marketing strategy and like your brand awareness and doing, joining into the pop-ups at these marathons like Runchella in Boston and like, New York City Marathon or doing TRE, which is like Runchella Light, and I'm just teasing. So that's a really great marketing strategy. Will you be able to seed product out to, like, when you talk about run clubs, like the endorphins or, some of these bigger run clubs, like a lot of what they want is like a couple hundred pairs of shoes to put on the feet of their runners. So when do you see that being something that you're able to do as a startup? I mean, right? It costs money to like roll in with 100 pairs of shoes that people are going to run in. So I'm just wrapping my head around this whole process.
There'll be a small, like I said, a small batch later this year.
Okay.
Not a big one. We're talking a few hundred pairs most likely. And then full mass production order basically that arrives next year in 2026, in the first half of 2026.
And since we're like so busy talking about running shoes, what about you? What are you doing these days? Are you running at all? Are you just working 24/7?
I'm running.
Yeah.
I have to. Fitness is an important part of my life, and I'm obviously a better founder, better CEO, better teammate when I'm feeling good, both physically and mentally. So I'm keeping up with it. I'm running. I dealt with injuries for a while, which was actually, again, part of the reason why I got excited and passionate about this topic and decided to build a product that I hope could help me and help others too. So I've been ramping up I've had a few kind of false starts, but I'm finally ramping my volume back up. I'm not where I was, but I'm around 20 miles a week, plus or minus a few.
That's good. I've had a sprained ankle for 10 months.
Oh my God.
It's like crushing my soul. I got PRP. So I've had a couple false starts. So originally I sprained it. Then I stopped running and I decided it was better. So I started running and then it was a partial tear.
No.
And so I'm like, no. So I mean, it sucks to be injured, but like, it's good that you're,
It really sucks. It affects you not just physically, but also mentally.
Mentally.
When you love the thing, not being able to do it really sucks. So but I'm running about 4 times a week right now. Again,
that's great.
20 miles and building gradually. I'm working with a coach, actually someone on our team, Dr. Phil Skiba, who's I would argue honestly one of the best coaches in the world. He worked with Nike on the Breaking 2 project too.
Okay.
So he's very experienced. Wrote a great book as well for endurance athletes to train scientific training for endurance athletes. But so working with him and kind of building up slowly. My goal is to, honestly, I'm just trying to get back to consistent running.
Yeah.
I'd like to race a half marathon later this year, and I'll get back to the marathon distance next year.
So how many marathons have you done? 2. Okay, I've done 1. I've done like 25 13.1s and like 15 70.3s. But I think that's the right way to go. Like, especially it sounds like you maybe were injured too.
I had I was dealing with Achilles tendinopathy. I didn't get over it for like a year and a half.
Okay. What did you do?
I had to back off running for a while, but it turns out that, and I want to be careful not to provide medical advice here, but it turns out that tendinopathies respond well to loading. So what actually seems to work best, and some of the literature around this topic shows that if you actually like strength train and try to strengthen the tissues, then they actually respond better to that than the complete and total rest or like stretching. So I did, it's called eccentric heel drops, which is basically like you raise your do a calf raise, and then you slowly lower down on one leg. And I was doing a protocol that's been shown to improve Achilles tendinopathy, and it actually worked for me.
I'm supposed to do some eccentric stuff too. And I mean, I was thinking about it today. I was like, my training for like getting back to running is not, my PT is like failing me. But it's so interesting that that's what you did. And so now you're getting back to it and you have the best attitude, because like for me, I keep signing up for things and then not having to cancel, right? I should just focus on like getting back.
Well, I trained on it for a month. A year, not a month.
A
year.
And kept training.
I got to the point where, because I thought it was minor, like it wouldn't hurt when I was running. And then I built up to the point where I was running over 40 miles a week, like every week. And it was a 19-mile long run that did me in. Like towards the end of that long run, the last few miles, I could actually feel my Achilles hurting. And so that's when I was like, all right, it's probably time to take a different approach here.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're back to running. I'm excited to check out the Avelo Running shoes.
Very soon.
Very soon. Yeah.
What's your favorite shoe these days?
I mean, my favorite shoe is the Hoka Mach 6.
It's a great one.
I mean, and what I like about it is it's kind of a minimalist shoe. It has a 6 millimeter drop, and the stack is not, I don't like a high stack shoe. Like typically for me, like I've tested like probably 100 shoes over the last year and a half, but I still have a few pairs I haven't tested because I haven't been running. But I mean, that's always like kind of my go-to. And then the other shoe that I really like is the Nike Pegasus. Again, another kind of
true classic.
Yeah, and I haven't really run a lot in Nike, but like I think the Alpha Fly is awesome, but it wouldn't be like my go-to daily trainer. For race day, I love the Hoka Rocket X2s. They're a little old, outdated, but I still like them. And I just like shoes that like are probably just like 38 to 40 in the stack, even for daily training. I do like carbon plated shoes, but I also like just regular shoes.
Yeah.
Personally. Yeah.
Yeah, the Mach line is a great one. People love that one. They even have the Mach X, which is a little more in the super trainer category. So it's got blade in there. It's maybe a little more lively for some faster stuff. And the Alpha Fly was my favorite racing shoe. It's the shoe that I used for my first marathon. I tried the Vaporfly for my second marathon. I really didn't like it as much as the Alpha Fly.
Interesting.
No, but the Alpha Fly is still my favorite
racing
shoe.
I started like I kind of cut out of running at mile 14. I was training for the New York City Marathon last year, and that's when I sprained my ankle. So like past November, and I was testing all these shoes, and I couldn't, like my running kind of like got cut short in August. But I was running in them. I did like them. I don't know if I just feel like I need a more balanced shoe. Like I get how awesome they are, but I really never got to get into any shoes where I would say like, oh, after 14 miles, like how does your foot feel? Because obviously, if you're doing half marathons, you're not doing the 14, 15, 18 mile runs that people, when it starts to take its toll on your legs. So I could see why that cushion and energy would be good for a marathon.
Yeah. For that distance, it can be very valuable. Again, as you fatigue, but the jury is still a little bit out. Like there's no doubt. I'd say it's been put to bed whether they improve performance or not. Like clearly they do. That's pretty obvious at this point. I think the jury is still out on how good they are. Good for us to be running in them, like for our injury risk and general, health. Like we're not really sure. They might increase injury risk for some people or particular types of injuries. The carbon fiber plated racing shoes, like the jury's I think still out. And then there's some people who believe they actually reduce injury risk. Because you're able to recover better. So jury's still out.
Because it hasn't been 10 years, right? Don't you need like 10 years or something to do a study for the data? Or you know a lot about science and studies, so like.
Well, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard to do, and this is part of the exciting thing for me with Avelo is it's really hard to do studies that look at performance and injury risk. The traditional way of doing them is bringing people into a lab, and it's hard to get a lot of people. Like most studies are relatively small. Like you'd be surprised. Right. They're like less than 50 people.
Wow.
10 or 20. And they're measuring them and watching them run in a lab for a few minutes, honestly, at a time. And then they go out into the world and they train normally. And then they ask them questions, basically like surveys on a daily and weekly basis to see how they're progressing, see if they're experiencing pain, discomfort, injury, see how their performance is progressing. And then they try to draw conclusions based on what they saw in the lab and what happened out in the world. And it's just a very challenging, and there's constraints to traditional research. That's the best that we can do. And of course, there's things that we've learned through that process, but there's also a lot of challenges with doing it that way. So we hope to create this set of data that will also allow us to give back to the running community and help the running community understand better, like what leads to optimal performance, what leads to running related injury, and how can we connect all these variables together and get a more complete understanding and picture of these topics.
Yeah, super interesting. And you'll be able to get that data to people pretty soon.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, this has been really great.
We are, the most important thing is if anyone's interested, they can sign up for our waitlist at avelorunning.com, and then our Kickstarter will be live in June.
Awesome. I'm excited to check it out.